Welcome to the Marketing Podcast, the #1 podcast helping aspiring entrepreneurs level up their marketing. Here's your host, Augustine. Let the class begin.
Welcome to yet another episode on the Marketing Podcast. And in today's episode, I'm going to talk to you guys about what getting 1,400 backlinks according to Ahrefs has done for my website. Now, recently I was scrolling through Ahrefs, looking at my website and other people's website, and when I was scrolling it, I noticed that I was getting a ton of backlinks, around 1,400 according to last week. Now, what does that mean when it comes to my website in terms of its performance, its ranking, the amount of such traffic that I'm getting? So what happened after that is my website, and that is www.siftgroup.net, used to rank on Google page 4 when I first started out. And at that point, I was really a lot into learning how search engine optimization work, both on page and both off page SEO, and trying to be legitimate as possible, meaning following as many times as possible or doing as many times as possible white hat SEO instead of doing any form of black hat SEO and gray hat SEO. Now, the disadvantage of doing white hat SEO is always it takes a lot of time for you to see any improvement on your website. The advantages is that you'll be always on the safe side of Google compared to when you're doing black hat SEO with the likes of clocking, redirecting, and all those forms of black hat SEO or gray hat SEO. You might end up being penalized by Google. So after a while, now I've been having my website for quite a bit over a year now. Now after a while, I moved on from Google page 4 now to Google page 3 and then to Google page 2 once I started creating a lot of content and linking with a lot of website owners, writers, and also as well as doing interviews with other people and having them linked to my website. Now, one thing you also have to notice is that 1,400 backlinks is not a lot compared to what the big websites do have with a huge marketing budget and all that. But you also have to realize that from that 1,400 backlinks, the only thing that counts is the amount of high quality backlinks that you're getting, because you might be getting 1,400 backlinks, but from that 1,400, maybe only 50 backlinks are actually authoritative or highly reputable and of high quality. And Google only ranks you when you are linked with websites that have a huge domain authority, in that it shows Google that your website is what has a lot of relevance in terms of the content it provides and is relevant to the user. Now, we've talked about the core vitals that Google will be focusing on in their next algorithm update set to come in 2021. And one of the things is your website needs to be mobile friendly. The other thing is they're focusing a lot on the user experience. So they're looking at things like latency, they're looking at your page speed and all that. Also, bounce rate will play an important role. So after getting a ton of backlinks, some of which are highly authoritative from website that I'm linked to, from website that I've done interview with, or I've talked to the website owners before, or I've linked in some of the blog articles that I write, I've linked to them, or also to the podcast that I create each and every single day. Now, if you realize that the podcast that we do is not only available on various different platforms, but also on the website as well, because on there, I also write the description to the podcast episode, which is more or less like a mini blog article. And from there, I also link to other websites and they link back to my website. So this morning, as I was checking my rankings on Google, I realized that already for the word Sift, I'm ranking on page 1. And for the word Sift marketing, I'm ranking at page 2, which is really good. Because the problem I was having is that when I came up with the word Sift for my digital ad agency, there were a lot of businesses already with the name Sift, and some of them were ranking so high that I could not compete for them. And the worst thing was that some of them were also digital agencies. So it really bothered me that I had now to focus on being better at them when it comes to search engine optimization, so in order to get the kind of traffic that I want. Because you have to realize that if you're sharing a name and at the same time you're in the same industry and in the same space, because I'm sharing a name and I'm in the same space with them, meaning we are all doing digital marketing. The problem comes is that maybe someone hears of me, but then is not sure which kind of sift they're talking about. Now they head on to Google, they type in sift, but then the sift that comes up in the top 5 in the top 5 list on Google page 1 are the ones that are most likely to be clicked by the website user. So at the moment, I'm ranking on page 1 for the word sift, and I'm ranking page 1 at number 4, which is really good. So what has that done to my traffic? Now I've seen a slight growth in my traffic. The only difference is that at the moment my site is under construction, because I'm trying to revamp the whole site and create it a bit more user engaging as I prepare for the next Google update that is going to come up in 2021. And since I'm doing that all alone, because I don't have a team, so I have to do it all alone, it might take me a bit of time, but I'm generating tons of traffic, and I'm quite sure if I'm done with the kind of revamp that I'm doing to my website, the kind of content I want to put out, blog articles, the show notes to the podcast episodes, and also making sure that my website is as mobile friendly as possible and its loading speed is as fast as possible. And you can use sites like Ahrefs, you can use SEMrush, you can use Ubersuggest by Neil Patel to crawl through your website and check on your ranking. So for desktop versions, you want your page speed to be around 1 second to a maximum of 3 seconds. Same goes for mobile phones. And one thing is that a lot of us, when you're creating website, we tend to focus more on the desktop version of the website and forget the mobile version of the website. And that's one of the reasons why your website might not be ranking as huge as possible, because you want to also realize that a lot of the users or a lot of your website visitors visit your websites on their mobile phones more than on their computers or on their laptops. And you can confirm this actually by also heading on to Google Search Console or Google Analytics and crawling through your website and looking at which devices do people actually use more, because I think Google Analytics will give you the kind of devices they use, its analytics. They'll also give you the kind of software that they're using, if it's an Android software, if it's an Apple software, or any other software that they're using. So it gives you these kinds of detail that you might want to see. And once you see that, you want to become as mobile friendly as possible. So that's actually what a lot of backlinks can do for you. And I mean high quality backlinks. I don't mean any form of irrelevant backlinks or links linking or websites linking back to your website. You really have to work on getting high quality backlinks. Talk to a lot of bloggers, write a lot of content on your website, write blogs, link back to high quality websites, have them link back to you, generate relationship. It's always the best way to generate high quality backlinks from all this. And there are tons of bloggers who will be willing to share your story with them, them sharing your story with their story with you. English kind of tricky there, but you get what I'm saying. So that's it for today's podcast episode. If you have any questions, make sure to reach out. And also, we've started another podcast called the Late Night Coffee Podcast. Now, this is a podcast that's only for tailored towards the Kenyan community, both in Kenya and in the diaspora. It's now available on every other podcast platform, so make sure to give it a listen. And until next time, stay safe. See you guys on the next podcast episode.
Thank you for tuning in to the Marketing Podcast. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Until next time, class dismissed.